Let me read the entire quote.
Perfect.
It says, "There is no coming to consciousness without pain. People will do anything, no matter how absurd, in order to avoid facing their own soul. One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious."
Perfect.
And I like to share this perspective on that because that quote, actually, it's actually in my latest book because I so resonated with that quote. But there's also, I wrote a chapter called Make Peace with Your Past. And I want to read something from Jan Levon Zant. You guys heard of Jan Levon Zant?
Yeah.
No.
I want to read this because it goes perfectly with that thing. And she says this: "Until you heal the wounds of your past, you are going to bleed. You can bandage the bleeding with food, with alcohol, with drugs, with work, with cigarettes, with sex, but eventually it will all ooze through and stain your life. You must find the strength to open the wounds, stick your hands inside, pull out the core of the pain that is holding you in your past, the memories, and make peace with them."
Make peace with them.
Yep. Oh.
And so it is my belief and contention that we have to do that healing work, because when we try to keep figuring it all out, try to understand it, it just keeps us stuck in our heads. And it isn't until we go in our hearts and release whatever pain may be trapped in our heart, then nothing really changes. From my own experience, I did the motivational Anthony Robbins, I can take on a world, rah, rah, rah thing for a very, very long time. I mean, I literally hid behind being motivated all the time, but what was actually driving that behavior was a deep sense of shame that I had never really looked at. And so I had to be willing to address and heal that shame that I had been carrying all of my life. Because for most of my life, the reason I was successful was because I was so ashamed of myself. I thought that by accomplishing things, people would like me. People would stay in my space. So I kept accomplishing stuff, just kept doing stuff. And I was very good at accomplishing stuff, but I was dead inside. And it wasn't until I reached in there and pulled out that core pain called shame that I became free. That I let go of the need for other people's approval. That I got out of my head, stopped trying to figure it all out, and just connected with my heart and realized that I'm just perfect just the way that I am.
Oh.
And so I had to be willing to go in there and grab and touch that pain and pull that pain. And for me, that pain was what Bradshaw calls toxic shame. I was driven by toxic shame for a large part of my life. And now that I've pulled that out and healed it, I'm no longer driven by that. I feel free, and that allows me to be who I am.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Tom, you got something to add to that, brother?
Well, I'm just going to say something just because it's coming up. When I hear you say that, Michael, are you saying that you're like, you described how you used to be Tony Robbins gung-ho, but I see you as that now. And I'm going to just say this too. You said you achieve things, and I'm not trying to cross-examine you. I'm just going to experiment with getting this out there. You say you achieve things through this, but in your stories also, you say you didn't achieve. You were homeless, and it probably happened at different periods. But it seemed like and we've gone through this before, but it seemed like there's a finish that you're describing that I can't understand, like a finish line that it already happened and now you're through. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I can definitely speak to that. There was a lady who said this, which I thought was so profound. She said, the people from Texas pretend to be who they really are. And so for me personally, I was pretending to be who I really am. I was pretending to be this highly motivated, energetic, optimistic person. That's when it was driven by, at my core, a deep sense of shame. Okay? When I removed that shame, when I remove that negative energy in me, now it becomes authentic who I am. I'm no longer pretending. This is just who and what I am. I've always been. But it was covered up by this sense of inadequacy. So now that that's gone, now that that's healed, I am a very highly motivated, energetic, optimistic person. That's just me. That's who and what I am. No longer, though, do I hide behind that. I don't hide behind that anymore. I'm just completely healed. That part of me, that shame part of me, is no longer there.
Interesting. I like that quote a lot. Pretending to be who you really are. Yeah. Thank you. So, okay, good. I'm glad we connected there.